Another meeting of the Contingency Council this evening. Take us through the major conclusions and decisions that have been reached. For example, the fact that it's been determined that the vessel is crumpled rather than broken apart. What do we know now?
So we know that the vessel has not come apart. We know that a lot of the integrity of the hull is still there. There is a bigger breakage than there was before. So the vessel is breaking. It has not broken. We know that one of the tanks of oil is forward of the break, but we know also that it is entirely contained. It's made up of 4 small tanks, which make up the forward tank, and we know that the integrity of those is presently secure, and we know that the rest of the tanks are backward of the break. We also know that we haven't seen any oil come out of the broken vessel at the moment, or the breaking vessel. So we are assured that it is still possible to do what it is now our key objective to achieve, which is to take the oil out as soon as possible, but as soon as possible in a way that is safe and clean. We don't want the operation to remove the oil to create the pollution that we're trying to prevent. And therefore everybody must rest assured that this is the key priority of the captain of the port and of the government, to remove that oil as soon as possible, as safely and as cleanly as possible, to protect Catalan Bay, to protect all of our coast, and to protect our neighbours' coasts also.
So you mentioned that one of the fuel tanks is forward of the break in the ship. Does this complicate matters further with regards to that tank in particular, and what is in that tank?
It is likely to complicate matters. We don't know whether any of the pipes which reach that tank are still operational, so we obviously will not be able to pump out the oil from that tank without breaching that tank, unless one of the pumps is possible to use, and that it can, or one of the pipes is possible to use, and it takes it backward of the break. Or indeed there may be other solutions that marine engineers will propose, and that is what is going to be determined in coming hours by the specialist salvors that are involved and by Oil Spill Response, advising the captain of the port.
And what's the status of the leakage there's already been? What exactly has leaked, and have measures to contain it worked?
So I can confirm to you that there has been an element of heavy fuel which has come out, but that heavy fuel seems to have come only from the pipes, and it's a very, very small amount of heavy fuel. It's contained within the boom, and it will be taken by those who are filtering for us, and then it's possible to skim that oil off. It's a very small amount of oil. What the rest of what we saw, the green fluid that we've seen in the pictures that have been released, that is lube oil. It is now possible to confirm it is lube oil, not hydraulic oil.
And you've said earlier that pumps were not able to pull fuel out before today. What needs to be done in order to get the operation underway as soon as possible? You said that it is hoped that this can start tomorrow morning.
Well, what you need is to have the ability, the suction ability, to be able to get to the oil. Because of the angle at which the ship has been, it has not been possible for the pumps on the ships that are, or the barges that are available around Gibraltar, not just in Gibraltar but around Gibraltar, to have enough suction to take out the oil. There's a different combination now of the ship's own pumps and the pumps of the slops barge that we will bring alongside, that will enable us to now pump the oil, we hope. But this is a continual operation. Believe me, if anyone was able to pump this oil out with any of the resources available in Gibraltar or in the region, we would already have done so, because our key priority is to pump that oil out as soon as possible. And it has been from the first moment that the ship found itself aground off Catalan Bay.
And in terms of the operations underway at the moment, or the assessment, the monitoring, how difficult is this, given that it's nighttime, in terms of the divers monitoring and assessing what's happened?
So we can't send divers down overnight, because it makes no sense. They won't have any ability to see the size of the gash that there is there and how that's grown. But we will be able, at first light, to deploy divers and to deploy the necessary resources to start the pumping operation, if it is possible to do, now that there is a different angle of at least 3 of the 4 tanks of oil that are on board the vessel. At the same time, overnight, we're going to continue to monitor what's happening and to ensure that there are no spills by having the Department of the Environment fly drones with infrared capability over the vessel at periodic intervals of approximately 15 to 30 minutes. So we'll constantly be seeing with infrared technology whether there is any more spillage, which we certainly hope there will not be, of any of the heavier fuels that are on board, whether it's the diesel or the heavy fuel oil that is on board the vessel.
Well, obviously, we can't see into the future, but is there any indication of how this is likely to progress overnight? What's the likelihood of further breakage, for example?
I think it's not fair that I should seek to crystal ball gaze, because I don't want to say something that does not materialize. I think it's important that we realize that at this moment we have to keep constant assessment of what is happening at sea before we make a final determination of what happens tomorrow after the further break that we've seen. It may be that the operation that we envisage is the operation that we can take into effect, or it may be that once the divers go down there, we have to take a different attitude to the approach that we bring to bear to give effect to the operation safely and cleanly to remove the oil from that vessel.
In terms of advice from experts, what likelihood is there that, given that there's already been a breakage, that strain will cause this to increase, for example, overnight?
Well, remember that the strain is being caused not just by the tides, not just by the wave action and the weather, it's being caused also by the weight of the load on the vessel and how it's being distributed. And marine engineers are doing the calculations of how best to ensure that even the important exercise of removing the oil, which will remove 500 tons of weight from the back of the vessel, principally from the back of the vessel, some of it is at the front, does not itself create a structural shift which once again causes a further breakage of the vessel.
And there have also been measures put in place sort of surrounding the ship, not just relating to the ship itself. For example, there will be an assessment as to putting booms along the coastline.
So we've already got a boom around the vessel. We're going to have booms which will be moving booms which will help us to corral any oil which might unfortunately come out of the vessel, which we hope will not be the case. There's also going to be a measure to boom Catalan Bay and to create other booming facilities to prevent any oil that might unfortunately leak, which we hope will not happen, from reaching our coast in any of its extension, or indeed our neighbours' coasts to the south or to the north, to ensure that we have as little transboundary effect as possible as we recover the oil from this vessel and then remove the vessel in longer term.
You mentioned the transboundary effect. You've been obviously liaising with the Spanish authorities from the start of the incident and also since the hull breakage. What is the feedback that you've had from them, and will they be contributing further resources, for example?
Well, I think that they are ready to contribute such further resources as we may require if we require them. The captain of the port in Gibraltar is in contact constantly with the captain of the port in Algeciras. The Commissioner of Police is in contact with the Guardia Civil also to ensure that we're working together to secure the whole of the area, and I'm very pleased that there has been contact between us and we're working in a collaborative way rather than in a way that is somehow going to lead us to conflict. This is an important thing for all of us who live in this area, and that we should resolve it in a way that is going to be clean and safe and secure for all of us who want to continue to enjoy the marvellous environment that we have here.
You've also had an offer of support from the Foreign Secretary and Prime Minister hopeful Liz Truss. Will this be taken up?
Well, the Liz Truss has been in touch. She's taken time out of her Conservative leadership campaign and her duties as Foreign Secretary to be in touch and to offer the support of the United Kingdom. That support is support that we know we enjoy and we shall be calling upon if necessary. Also, OSRL is incorporated in the United Kingdom, it's established in the United Kingdom, it's already sending material out to Gibraltar. I think we know we can count with the United Kingdom in difficult moments like this, and I think it says a lot that Liz Truss has taken time out in this final strains of the leadership campaign for the leadership of the Conservative Party to be in touch.
And looking ahead from beyond the immediate operation and to the future, you've said that it's likely not possible that the initial plan to refloat the ship will be feasible now. So what options are left for salvage? You also indicated the time frame will be much longer than what was initially envisaged.
Well, as you say, we've said it's likely not possible now to use a cofferdam given the wider breakage that we're seeing.
Is it ruled out? Or?
But it's not yet ruled out. So I don't want to say what the future options are likely to be because they haven't yet been presented to the captain of the port. The captain of the port has not yet presented them to the government, and therefore I would be purely in the realms of a layman speculating if I were to make any statement in that respect. And there's plenty of that going on already. You don't need me to do that. You need me to give you the facts, not my own speculation.
And in terms of the coming hours, what's the atmosphere like in the bunker, in the contingency council? Is it hopeful?
Well, as you can imagine, we're all very concerned to ensure that everything is done that can be done, and that when we look back on the actions that we take now, we don't see that there is something that could have been done that we somehow missed. And of course, we have the experts to advise us on that. They're the ones that will know what the best options are, and we have the assurance that we are acting based on the best advice possible, based on the advice of the expert of OSRL, based on the recommendations of the P&I Club also, where it's relevant to the captain of the port. And when we come back to learn lessons, we need to learn lessons which are not going to tell us that we missed something that was obvious that we could or should have done. And I'm very confident that is not the case and that we have all bases covered. But there is, of course, a lot of tension because we want to get this right, not just for Gibraltar and the people of Gibraltar, but for everyone who lives around Gibraltar. The environment has no frontiers, and we have to ensure that we do everything possible to protect the beauty of Catalan Bay and all of our coastline.